Welcome to a new series that I'm doing called Good Enough to Play. What is it? Well, it's a series where I teach you a system good enough for you to sit and play at a table. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I want you to be able to sit at the table long enough to feel comfortable with the system and then get inspired to learn more. So, today, we're learning Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. This is what your character sheets look like, and we'll be using Roll20 as it is one of my preferred VTTs for this system. So let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to show you what character creation looks like. So, save changes and go into our... well, first, at this point, you can either use a Marvel character that already exists, like Spider-Man there, or you can create your brand new Marvel character. So that's what we're going to do here in Character Builder. First thing that you're going to want to know is that this system does not use levels. It uses ranks. Once you are a rank, that's generally the rank that you're going to stay at unless you're using the optional character progression rules that were introduced in the X-Men expansion of this system. Right now, I'm working under the assumption that you are playing it as it was originally intended. So you're going to pick a rank. Rank essentially is how strong is your character. Are they a street level character like the Punisher, who's just a dude with guns, or are they a cosmic powerhouse like Thor or Harold Thor? Not important. So one of the most important things to pay attention to if you are using Roll20 is that it explains everything that you need to know in regards to what each rank does, but I will break that down for you. Ranks essentially grant you access to stronger powers as well as give you more ability points. Think of ability points like Dungeons & Dragons ability scores. So if you want more points in strength, which in this system is called melee, I'll break that down later, you're going to want to go to a higher rank. Be sure to check with your GM to see what rank they are allowing in their games. Some set it at a certain rank, like this will be a rank 3 game. Some other GMs, like myself, allow for mixed rank parties. So you could go from rank 1 to rank 6, or if they feel like limited it could be like rank 1 to rank 3, however you're feeling. For this particular example, I'm going to pick the middle, the sweet spot, rank 3. In Roll20, you can see that they'll let you know how many ability points you get, 15. How many rank powers you get. Rank powers is essentially how many points you have to buy new powers. So for rank 3, which is champion, you're only going to get 12, or you're going to get 12. And it gives you a little blurb as to what to expect in this rank. You're a formidable superhero. You can protect a city like Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, protect Jersey City, or join a nationally renowned team like Alpha Flight or the Champions. Now, again, this is just a guide. You don't have to adhere to that. If you want to be a rank 3 and join the Avengers, go for it. But make sure that you talk with your GM first. Next, we have ability scores. I'm going to teach you a shortcut to better understand this, but the shortcut does rely on you having some experience with Dungeons & Dragons or other D20 based systems. So, all of the stats here spell Marvel, and they are formed in the same way that D20 systems form their attribute points. So, melee is the equivalent to strength. Agility is the equivalent to dexterity. Resilience is the equivalent to constitution. Vigilance is the equivalent to wisdom. Ego is the equivalent to charisma. And logic is the equivalent to intelligence. Once you put it in that perspective, you basically know what to expect from those attribute points, and if you are confused as to how they function with powers, well, there's a nice little blurb up here that's going to show you. So ego, for example, it works with magical and elemental powers. Logic works with telepathy. Vigilance is what provides focus. I will tell you what that is in a minute. It also is the stat that you use to base your initiative. it's defense against being surprised. It's basically perception. Resilience, it's what determines the HP that your character has. So I highly recommend always putting at least a point or two into resilience, because if you don't, your HP will be 10, which is the base HP of the average person in this world, so it won't take very much to take you out. So putting at least 1 point in there raises your HP to 30. Putting another point raises it up to 60. You get the math from there. Every point equals another 30 HP. So you want to make sure that you at least have 1 point in resilience. Agility is what determines your run speed, as well as it's the stat that you're going to use for all your ranged weapons attacks. So whether you're shooting a gun, bow, or superpowers, if you want to do long range, you are going to want some points in agility. And finally, melee is strength. Pretty self-explanatory. The more melee points you have, the harder you hit and the heavier things that you can lift. All right. Each rank has an ability cap, so that means that the most points you can put in any one stat at rank 3 is going to be 6, and it adjusts from there. I can show you how that works. So a rank 1 is only going to be able to put 4 points in. 2, 4, 6, 8. You get it from there. You can do the math. So let's go back to rank 3. And let's put some points in places, shall we? So right now I want to build a Hawkeye type individual, so I'm gonna put 6 points in agility. I want to be able to hit what I'm aiming at if I'm gonna be Hawkeye. I want to go quickly in initiative, so I'm gonna put at least 4 points in my vigilance. And let's see. I want to be able to do some punching, so I'll put 2 points into melee, and I'll put that extra point into vigilance. That way I can see what I'm aiming at. Make sure that I can get early in initiative and spot hidden things. All right, so this is my Hawkeye-ish based character. On Roll20, you can see here it has, it tells you how many points of focus that you have. Now, I should let you know that this game has 2 health pools. Your HP, which is traditional hit points, it drops to 0. You are unconscious. And also focus. Focus is your, for lack of a better word, mental health. That hits 0 and you are demoralized. Essentially taken out of the fight. Once you're demoralized, you get trouble on all of your rolls and you can't concentrate on abilities. I'll explain what all that is later. I pinky promise. Focus is also the pool in which you use to do powers. Think of it like a mix of its own health points and spell slots. In order to use powers, you will spend focus. In order to maintain powers, you may use more focus. And also, that's where telepaths are gonna hit you when they do their telepathic attacks. Directly in the focus. There are some weapon types or energy types that do damage to both, like Hellfire. If you get hit with a Hellfire attack, it's going to do half HP damage and half focus damage, so you want to make sure to maintain both. If you're spamming powers, you're just going to make it easier for a telepath to take you out. Speed, if you're using a battle map, it's essentially how many spaces your character can move. That is going to be based entirely on your agility. Initiative, your initiative bonus is based on your vigilance, and health, like I said before, is your resilience. So you're going to want to have at least 1 or 2 points in there. Now let's move on. Next, we have your character's origin. Now, some origins come with a pre-package of powers. For example, if I were to take the origin vampire, right? I can go all the way to power sets, and I already have some powers because there are just some things inherent to vampires that they can just do. So I would already have animal communication command, telepathic link, healing factor, mighty 1, and sturdy 2, and leech life, which represents biting somebody's neck and draining the blood out of them to get strength. For this example, we are not going to be a vampire. Instead, let's just go with a mutant. It's pretty baseline for Marvel. So I'm gonna pick mutant. And you can see when I go to my power sets, no powers, because you get to choose how your mutation manifests in terms of what powers that they get. Okay? So, continuing on, we now have occupation. Now, what occupation does is it gives you access to certain tags and traits. Think of traits kind of like feats in this system. They're a little bit weaker than how they are represented in other systems, but they still have some mechanical benefits. So, in this example, I am going to be I'm making a Hawkeye type character, so let's just say that I am a spy. Let's take a look at what that does for my character. So, by being a spy, I get the tag black market access. What tags are they are essentially like skills in this system. There are no skills, so like, for example, if I wanted to do sleight of hand, whereas in other systems, I would have the skill sleight of hand and points in it. With Marvel, think of yourself more as a writer advocating for things that make sense for your character. So instead of having the skill, you would relate to how the tags you have or the traits you have would grant your character access to doing what they're trying to do. The tag I get from this is black market access. That means if I'm trying to find out something illegal, the GM should kind of, 1, let me try, and 2, perhaps be negotiated into giving age. Age is essentially advantage in this system, and I'll explain that later. Just keep it top of mind. It also gives me the traits. Remember, traits are kind of like weaker feats. Connections and leverage. We're about to go over connections, so let's just do it. Or traits, so let's just do it. So let's take a look at what connections does for me, right? Connections says the character knows someone with access and knowledge of a particular field. The connection could be a reporter, a police officer, a politician, a mobster, and so on. By making an ego check, the character can call on their contact to provide help in the form of clues, information, or resources. The narrator determines the target number of the ego check based on the favor requested. This trait can be selected multiple times using different types. This includes celebrities, community, criminal, espionage, military, outsiders, police, professionals, sources, superheroes, and so on. So essentially, you are connected with someone that is specialized in a field, and in your adventures, you can call on them for help. You get to make an ego check, and sometimes it'll come in handy in other creative, unique ways. Work with your game master, or in this system, narrator, to figure out how that plays. What other traits do I get just from being a spy? Leverage. Let's take a look at leverage. So leverage. The character is good at figuring out what people want and using it against them. They have an edge on logic checks to investigate people and on ego checks to persuade people they've investigated. Pretty self-explanatory. So those are the ones that I get just from my occupation. I also get to pick 2 more, right? So let's go ahead and pick. Let's see, I want my character to be good at combat, right? So let me look at combat reflexes. Combat reflexes says the character can react quickly in combat. This grants them an additional reaction each round. So I'm gonna definitely grab that one. That's a really good one. And then, let's see, what else? Let's say free running. Free running says the character has an edge on agility checks made to perform acrobatics during a movement action. So if I'm chasing someone or running away, or we're doing a chase scene where we're running across rooftops, it's going to be easier for this character because this is just something that they do. This is also a great tool for narrators to take a look at what your player characters are good at and finding a way to put them in, put those things into the game. If I see a player has the free running trait, then I'm definitely gonna put at some point a bad guy running away so this character can spotlight that ability that they have. It's a good reason to take traits, and it's a good reason to look at traits to tell a good cohesive story. Remember, this is collaborative. It takes both of you to make the characters look as awesome as possible, and this is superheroes, so we want them to look awesome. Now let's get into the fun part, power sets. Now again, I said that I want this character to be a Hawkeye type character. I want them to essentially be a marksman. So I'm gonna look at all the powers that there are, and there are a lot of them, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pick a bunch of them. Things to note, basic powers are really good, so make sure that you're not just looking at the ones with the flashier names. There's a lot of good stuff in basic powers. So I'm gonna start with accuracy, and I'm gonna explain what that does later, but I promise you it is definitely something that fits this character build. So there are 4 ranks of accuracy. I'm gonna take as many as I can get because that essentially is going to ensure that I hit with a ranged attack, and when I do hit, because I have accuracy 3, it's gonna make those hits a lot harder. I'm gonna pick combat trickery. This part is so important, I might actually even edit through. Oh, if I have fast forward, I'm gonna stop here because there is something else that I want to tell you about selecting powers. So the way this works is while you're selecting powers, the first power set that you grab, all of the powers are going to cost just 1 power point. However, the first power that you grab from a new power set is going to cost 2. So right now, all of the powers that I grabbed have been in basic, so they're all 1. But I just grabbed a new power from the 6th Sense power set. So the first power that I grabbed from there was intuition. It cost me 2 power points. So that way they kind of want to keep you on theme. If you're grabbing a power from every power set, it's going to be a lot more expensive and you're going to be a lot weaker because you can do more things. But if you keep yourself to a few power sets, you're going to get more powers, more in-depth powers. So like if you choose to be a speedster, you're going to be able to do a lot more cool speedster things than somebody who just dipped into super speed along with everything else. Essentially, it's a lot harder to be Superman in this system because he's got power sets that are all over the place versus the Flash, who is just kind of laser focused in. Or I suppose I should do a Marvel example. It's going to be a lot harder to be Apocalypse, who can do a lot of different things, versus if you were going to be Quicksilver, because again, focused on one thing. Alright, that being said, let's get back into picking our powers. And as an example, I'm just now entering range weapons. I want you to watch, I have 6 power points. The first power that I'm going to take from here is going to cost me 2, so it's going to drop my power points down to 4. Ready? Oof! I don't love it, but that's how it works, baby. Now, the cool thing about this system is that the terminology is very broad. So I am good at ranged weapons. What ranged weapon? Doesn't matter. I'm just good at ranged weapons. You can see now that I'm down to 1, I only have access to the power sets that I've already access because, again, it costs 2 to get the first power of a new power set. And when you're down to 1, you can only pick what you've already unlocked. Alright, so the only thing left for me to do now is to work on a backstory. I'm just gonna name him Shooter because I can't think of anything right now. But now that we've made the character, we work on our backstory, and then we pick our tags. You can pick as many tags as you like. Tags essentially are a tool for your narrator to find out what kind of stories they can tell with your character. So I'm going to put something like my character has a headquarters, right? Let's say they have their own version of the Batcave. I would pick headquarters. My narrator knows that my character has a headquarters and can factor that into the story. I'm gonna select the heroic tag, which actually has a function, but we'll get into that later, which essentially says that my character is going to always try to not kill. And because of that, when my character would accidentally kill, instead of whatever they're fighting dying, they're dropped to 1 hit point instead. The opposite of that would be bloodthirsty, which when someone that is bloodthirsty is fighting, they have to make a roll to stop themselves from killing. So some tags do have mechanics behind it. They don't make it the easiest to find that stuff out, but again, work with your narrator, work with your players to find out really cool things that you can do with these tags. So I'm also going to give myself lab access. Let's say I have a lab in the headquarters, and then I'm going to give myself the tag Rich. I've essentially made Green Arrow, but it's not important. Alright, so this is my character, Shooter, right? Now let's get into the mechanics of the game, since we've already gone over character creation, and this is the part that is pretty simple. So Shooter has run into a locked door. They want to get into the door. I decide that since I'm so Dexy, I want to try to pick the lock. Well, do I have any traits or tags that would lend to me being able to do that? I make the argument that since I have black market access, I'm around a lot of criminals, and perhaps I picked up the skill by talking to one of my black market access friends. GM says, sure, we'll give it a swing. I'll let you roll. Dope. This is what you need to know about skills and such in this system. Remember I told you how Marvel co-aligns with the ability scores in other systems? Keep that in mind. If I'm trying to pick a lock, that would be a dex skill in D&D, right? So chances are your narrator will have you roll an agility score, because again, agility is the equivalent to dex. So I'm going to roll a non-combat dex score or agility test. These are called target numbers, right? So the GM will say it's a target number 12 to pick the lock of this door. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that. I roll my 3d6 and I get a score. Now, let's talk about the 3d6s. This is a D616 system. The reason that it's not just a 3d6 system is because the 1 in D616 is very important. You'll even see that in the Roll20, it's highlighted in red. That's because it's your Marvel number. There is no number 1 on this die. Instead, where 1 would be, the word Marvel is. And if you do end up rolling a Marvel, that is essentially a fantastic roll. It could be a fantastic success or a fantastic failure. But either way, it works in your favor. So to give you an example, let's say, for example, I rolled lower than 12. The target number to pick the lock of this door was 12, but I rolled, let's say, 1 Marvel and then 3, which would be a total of 10. Not a success. When you roll a Marvel, it counts as 6 for determining when it appears on the thingamajig, just to explain the math. But I didn't hit the number, right? Well, essentially how I would play this as a narrator is you fail to pick the lock, but you do hear that footsteps are coming towards the door to hear what the ruckus is about. You hear it early enough to attempt to hide. I would then give the player a chance to hide. If they succeed on that, the person who opens the door decides, since they've already walked this far, they're going to just go grab a snack, leaving the door open. You see how the failure works in their favor? That's the kind of thing that a fantastic failure will do for you. A fantastic success will just have you open the door quietly, and you notice that everybody inside is distracted by a football game, so it's even easier for you to sneak into the rest of the way that you were going. Whenever you roll Marvel, something good should happen to you. And when you roll a Marvel in combat, it normally means that you're going to do double damage. However, it also means that some additional effects can happen with your powers. Let's take a look at double tap, for example. Double tap says the character makes a ranged attack against the enemy within 2 spaces. If the attack is a success, the enemy takes regular damage. What the is that? Oh, somebody else is in here. Sorry, I have a lot of people in my Roll20. But if the attack is a success, the enemy takes regular damage. On a fantastic success, the enemy takes double damage and they're bleeding. So you always want to get that marvelous success. Alright, so that's essentially the system. But I told you that there's going to be edge and troubles. All that is that you see how I hover over a number and there's edge or trouble? Whenever you have trouble, you're going to re-roll your highest. That does mean it can knock you out of a critical. So let's say you rolled a Marvel. That's always going to be the first thing that's re-rolled with a trouble. But if you have edge, you're going to re-roll the lowest. So you can crit for you can fish for a crit if your Marvel die is the lowest. You can have 3 stacks of edge, you can have 3 stacks of trouble, and they do cancel each other out. So that's the Marvel Multiverse System in a nutshell. And if you've watched this and it makes sense to you, congratulations, you're good enough to play. I hope that clears things up. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. If you like this and you would like me to do more good enough to plays for other systems, please be sure to let me know. But that's it. Alright, I'm outie. Bye. And enjoy being a superhero.